Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me. I I said I hate this market in the thumbnail of this video, and it's primarily because of just overall affordability. And so this live, I'm of course going to take your questions about the real estate market. But right now, rates are right about 7.5. So this article, as mortgage rates soar over 7%, and already unaffordable housing market is becoming even more expensive. Because let's talk about some of the prediction was, and hopefully you can hear me all right. Thank you guys for getting on early. The prediction was that as mortgage rates went up, prices would come down. So that did not happen. Mortgage rates are up, prices are still pretty much where they were before. In some markets, they've decreased, but it didn't make the home less expensive, because even if it went down 5%, your interest rate doubled. So it's still more expensive for you to buy a property because the price is still high and the interest rate is so high. So it's a difficult market to be in, definitely for first-time home buyers. But first-time home buyers are right now still 30% of homes sold, at least last month. So first-time home buyers are still buying homes, but there's a lot of people still on the sidelines. So a lot of people are asking, and thank you for joining me. Put your questions in the comments. A lot of people are asking me, I just wait till interest rates go down. And when I think I went out for a second, what's going to happen when interest rates go down? Make sure my internet's right. All right, what's going to happen when interest rates go down? People that have been on the sidelines are going to come back in because now they can afford, right? So it's all about supply and demand. The demand for housing is still higher than the supply of housing. Okay. So either the supply has to increase or the demand has to decrease. And it hasn't, even at 7%, the demand hasn't decreased significantly enough to reduce these prices. And so I want to just talk about, and I really want to take your questions. So put your questions in the chat. One of the things I want you to do as first-time home buyers is make sure you are financially stable in all areas. Your credit needs to be as high as possible. Your savings needs to be as high as possible. Your income needs to be as high as possible. So if you're not actively looking for a house, you should be actively looking for a better job, actively looking for more, a side hustle, a side business, how you can increase your current income. Those are the things you should actively be doing, because you may reach a point where this is the normal for a while, that prices are high, interest rates are high, or interest rates are low, and then prices go up again. So those are the things that could happen in the near future. So if in 2024, say interest rates go back down to 6%, 5.5%, everybody's rushing back in the market because now they can afford a home. And the more competition, you get multiple offers, people raise the price of their property. So be mindful of that and know, okay, this is my budget. This is what I can afford for a house. This is what I'm willing to pay for a month, but for each month, because otherwise you're just like, I like that house. How can I afford it? Right. And then the lender's going to tell you, well, if you do an adjustable rate mortgage, then you could do this, you could do that. Make sure you know what your budget is before somebody tells you how you can do something to get into the house that you want. Because sometimes that house is going to be more expensive than you should be buying, because you're just looking at the house. You're not looking at your financials. And the other thing is, a lot of people are moving into new construction because they're offering you interest rate reductions. I would not buy new construction unless they're offering you an interest rate reduction or some kind of promotion or a closing cost or something to incentivize you to buy the house, because the house is still at high prices. You need to be getting, a lower interest rate. I know a lot of subdivisions, new construction in Atlanta, 5.5%. A lot of people are offering that $30,000, $50,000 in closing costs. Don't move into the market until you are financially ready to do so. Okay. Because there's no major rush, right? There's no major rush at 7.5%. So we're going to be here for an hour. If you're new to this channel, I'm Shahida Hill, getting you over the hill to home ownership and helping you confidently buy your first home. Make sure you're joining. I think my moderator has put in the chat my Facebook group. We're still having closings in our Facebook group, one every week, 1 or 2 every week. So that can get you motivated. How'd you guys do it? Where'd you buy? It's a great place to be. You're all my virtual clients for the most part, and I want you to make sure you have a really good transaction. We have 236 people on the chat tonight, which is awesome. Please take a moment and like and subscribe. If you do nothing else, it'll give you higher chance for me to answer your question. Not really, but if you take a moment, please, and like this broadcast. So go ahead and hit the like button. That's the little thumbs up. Hit the like. It just helps it reach more people. Okay. So let's go through these questions as much as possible. All right, I'm going to the top. All right, let's see. He was here first. Feel this. About to close on my first townhome currently. In love with it, but mucho caro. I don't know what caro is. I haven't taken Spanish. Is that Spanish for something? Mucho. You love it. But thank you for being the first to make a comment. I appreciate it. All right, so put your questions in the chat. Make sure your questions have question marks, because sometimes you guys start communicating in the chat together and I can see those, but I want to make sure you have actual question. So thanks for joining me, Seamless Med Spa. Who else came early? Kristen said, I've been looking for places in LA and everything is way overpriced. It has forced me to consider condos. The HOA monthly fee is $600 and I've still been outbid. Yeah, condos are something I definitely want you to watch if you haven't already. My condo video about buying a condos and be aware. It says buyer beware for condos, because you want to make sure that assessment, that monthly assessment, is not going to go up. They're not going to have, or up significantly, right? They're not going to have any special assessments, because if they haven't maintained good financials, then you may be hit after you close with a special assessment. So you want to look like in 5 years of their financials. You also want to make sure they have a strong reserve. So they have money like on hold if there are, major repairs, maybe the elevator, the roof, anything that's in those common areas, that they have a fund to get those things done, because they should have been taking a little bit of all of those assessments over the years and putting them in reserve. So there's not a need for a major special assessment of all the condo owners. So you want to make sure you're checking those financials, I would say, over the last 5 years, and definitely checking the reserve balance. Like, how much money do they have in reserves? And is it enough to cover things they plan on doing in the future? And look at those minutes of those meetings, because you can see whether there's like arguments between the owner, the HOA board, and the homeowners. If there's a lot of that, then there might be, a situation you don't want to be a part of. All right. So thank you guys so much. All right. Ms. Amarashi put in the Facebook group. Thank you. Rami says, I'm in Chicago. I want to cry. Don't cry. Don't cry. We're going to get through this together. But we are, I would say, I think we're at the highest interest rate they've been in 20 years. Once it got to like 7.48% this week, and some of the highest home prices as well. All right. Byron Hughes says, I'm on the sidelines. And let's say this, while you're on the sidelines, what are you doing? So just put that in the chat. I'm on the sidelines. I'm working on my credit. I'm on the sidelines. I'm increasing my income. I'm on the sidelines. I am making sure I'm budgeting, making sure I have a strong budget, making sure I'm saving, I'm investing in the meantime, that sort of thing. What are you doing while you're on the sidelines? We're actually on the sidelines, looking. I've done a video of like if you are waiting, what you should do during that wait. You should be looking at neighborhoods, your ideal neighborhood, getting all that data, all of that. But make sure you're doing something. If home ownership is your goal, and I think it should be at some point, when you are ready to get in, you have to be very prepared. So you're preparing on the sidelines. So I want everybody to be preparing while they're on the sidelines. All right. Dana says, if I rent out my home that has a VA loan on it, will that affect my DTI for my second home? It should not, because typically when you rent out your first home, they're going to use that rental income, at least 75% of whatever's being rented for. You would share your lease with your lender, and they'll use a portion of that income as a portion of that rental income as your income. So you can still qualify for your new home, the one that you want to buy, and your DTI won't be affected much if you're getting a good rental rate on that property. So if you're getting above what your mortgage payment, like you're making a profit on that rental, then it could help you get the second home other than hinder you. It could help your DTI ratio because now you have more income. So it should not, it will impact it, but it should impact it positively if you're getting enough income above your mortgage payment. You're not like losing money on the rental. All right, good question, Dana. I really want to wait until I pay off everything. Okay, so this is a maybe for me. And I say this because a lot of people were, during the pandemic, right? They were waiting. They were doing like the Dave Ramsey, I'm gonna pay off all of my bills and then I'm gonna buy a house and do all that stuff. And then prices went from 200,000 to 400,000 or 350. So that did impact. Sorry, I'm having a little technical difficulty. That did impact their ability to buy. So it wouldn't be as strong. I remember, doing this channel over the pandemic and doing lives, and they were like, I was waiting, I was saving my 20%. Now I can't even afford a house because prices had gone up so much they couldn't afford it. Like their 20% wasn't 20% anymore because the price had gone up so much. So that could be a goal, but I want to say, during that time, if you find an opportunity, I wouldn't be too afraid to jump on that opportunity if you can. Like if it's a good deal, it's in the right, the right home, the right time, you may want to jump on it, because a lot of people were waiting. They missed the 2%, they missed the 3% because they were waiting on paying off debt, and they missed that upside, as far as, equity. So I would say it's not a hard and fast rule, but you could, right, be paying off things, because that's going to help your debt to income ratio. It's likely going to help your credit, all of that. All right. Questions. Somebody said that won't be till November. I think we're talking about interest rates maybe decreasing, I think. But yeah, so I'm going to do a video about what Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac predicted interest rates will go. Most of them are 2024 rates, like in the 6s and the 5s. But again, that's probably going to increase demand at that time, right? So unless a lot of people say, okay, I'm at 5%, I'm going to put my house on the market, that can increase supply. Builders are building, and if they're building faster, that could help. Where that supply is higher, perhaps, than demand. All right. Questions. All right. Are VA loans affected by the interest rates? Yes. So all loans are impacted by interest rates increasing. So when, they say the average interest rate has gone up, they mean VA loans, USDA loans, FHA loans, conventional, everybody's going up. You just definitely have to shop that rate. There's not one rate for VA loans where, the government says all VA loans are 7%. One lender may have one rate, another lender has another rate, so you have to make sure you're still shopping around these loans, particularly right now. I have a VA loan video that I did Veterans Day of this year. Is under the live tab. I would definitely watch that. New skincare. And you speak of competition. Does that also apply to new construction? Yeah. So new construction, I don't understand what you mean by competition for this question, but when I was talking about interest rates being lower, that does definitely apply for new construction, because that's part of their incentives to get you to buy right now, is them, basically buying down your rate, your interest rate. But if you have a clarification on that, the competition question, let me know. All right. In the process of buying with NACA at 6.1%, don't know if I should buy my interest rate down or save for repairs. It really depends on what kind of house you're buying and how many repairs are needed. So I am going to, First Time Homebuyer Masterclass and Confidently Closed Handbook is officially going to be released on the 21st. Look out for it. But part of the things that I'm putting in there is how long things typically last in a home. So when you're saying should I save my money for repairs, you probably are going to do both. If you're buying a home and it's going to need some repairs in the near future, you should have an idea of what that cost is. So you could put that aside if you can't negotiate that with the seller. So if you can't negotiate for the seller, that's ideal for the seller to give you a credit for repairs or actually repair the things before you close. And you have to have money for repairs, then put that money aside and then say, okay, how much can I put toward buying down my rate? Because a lot of people in NACA, because it's no down payment, no closing costs, they use the money that they save to buy down their rate. But when you're buying down your rate, you have to make sure the money that you're putting up, it's going to make sense depending on how long you're going to live in that home. You have to have a break-even point. So I would say that you should plan on doing both, having some money for repairs and buying down your rate, and then ask your lender, how much is it going to cost me to buy down my rate to 5 and 5.75, 5.5. So you have an idea of what that cost is going to be. But ideally, if you can get the seller to buy down your rate in closing costs or give you a credit or pay for some of those repairs, that'll be less money that you have to put out yourself. And your agent can help negotiate that for you. So good question, Brianna. Good. And congratulations with NACA. All right. All right. Praise Boutique says, Ms. Hill, do you only work in the Atlanta area or do you work? I'm only licensed in Georgia. So I'm only licensed in Georgia. So I refer people out to other agents and I have those links in my videos. So please do that. I am working on probably not till 2024 at this point, but making sure I have agents that I've trained for first-time home buyers that I refer to. But yeah, I'm only licensed in Georgia. But anybody out of state for referrals, I have links for those in the comments. I have links for specific agents in Texas and Florida. And then I'm working on some other states, but all states, I have a link for you too. All right, Tiff says, 2024 for me, I'm saving all I can right now and making sure I keep plugging away at the small amount of debt I have. Great plan, Tiffany. And also make sure you're getting the highest interest rate on your savings. You could probably get, if you have like a lump sum, a 6-month CD for maybe even 6%, 7% interest. If you have your money in like Wells Fargo, like your savings, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Chase, and you're earning less than 1% or like a quarter of 1%, you need to move your money. I've done a video about this. You should at least be getting 4 to 6% on your savings right now. So if you have a savings account, and I don't want you to put all your money in savings, but if you are saving like your down payment, those types of things, go ahead and put it in something that's going to at least earn you money over the next few months, over the next year, if you're saving for your house. All right. Thank you, guys. All right. Nick says, can someone use their home equity to finish a rental construction project? Yes. So I have a video about the 4 ways you can get money out of your home. And 2 of them that might work for you, or 3 of them, I guess, would be a home equity loan or a home equity line of credit. So one is like you're actually borrowing the money and you have to start making payments on that money. The home equity line of credit, you just have the funds and you use it as needed, right? And then the other one is a cash out refinance, which that probably is not going to be the best thing for you to do because you're going to cash out, the equity in your home. And then your remaining balance is going to be at the 7% interest rate. So you'll lose hopefully you have a low interest rate. You're going to lose that low interest rate. So that probably doesn't make sense. But if you have like a rehab that you're going to be able to pay off or some, on another property and make your money back, then either a home equity loan or a home equity line of credit would probably work the best. But look at those things and watch that video. William Chu says, all that HOA drama. All right. So Samuel says, I just got mine $319 in Alabama. All right. So if y'all want lower prices, definitely come down to the South. Let me see. Somebody says, hi, question. even if a new construction has been on Zillow for over 200 days, do you still think they will not go down in listing price? Typically for new construction, a lot of times they're listing it as they're building it. So unless it's been truly like the construction was finished, right? So they're finished construction and then they listed it and now it's been on the market for 200 days, then they might be willing to go down on the listing price if you put an offer because it's a finished home, it's move-in ready, but it's been sitting for 200 days. Or did the builder list it? They probably had like a spec home picture and then, they've been building it probably for 180 days. That's very different. But for the most part, if something's been on the market, it's completed and it's been on the market for more than average, then you probably can negotiate a lower price on that property. And that's for resales and new construction, because now the owner, the seller, the builder, they're more desperate to sell that property. But if they've just been building it and nobody can move in it anyway, then they're not going to take it as, oh, it's been on the market for 200 days because it wasn't livable, right, for all of those 200 days. So you want to, check that out to see, okay, because a lot of new construction builders put homes on Zillow and they're not ready yet. They just put like a picture of the spec home, the model home, and it's not an actual, move-in ready home. All right, good question, Euphora. If interest rate, this is a question from random username. If interest rates ever finally go down, is there a waiting period for how long before you can refinance if you closed recently? In other words, would a new mortgage have to wait a set time first? Okay, this is my official, unofficial answer. So say you close today, it's going to take probably a couple of weeks for your deed to be recorded, for you saying that you own that property. That deed is recorded, you own that property. If you, after your deed is recorded, go to another, not the lender that you closed with, but if you go to another lender, you can refinance that property almost immediately. If you try to refinance with the lender that you closed with, then they're probably going to have you wait. Okay, because I think they lose some money if you try to refinance that loan immediately. So my answer is, if you go to another lender, you should be able to refinance immediately. If you try to refinance with your current lender, then they'll probably have a waiting period for that. So, but the question is, should you refinance? So that's why I did a whole video on when it makes sense for you to refinance. So say that you closed at 7%. And now interest rates are 6.7%, like it drops 0.25%. Is it worth it? It might not be, because you're going to have closing costs with that refinance. You're going to have some fees. And how long is it going to take you to make up what you're saving? So you always have to say, I can refinance, but at what interest rate does it make sense, financial sense, for me to refinance? And that's what I did in that video. When does it make sense to refinance? Because a lot of lenders are saying, oh, just refinance when the time comes. Oh, just refinance. Oh, just refinance. You have to make sure all of the numbers make sense for you to finance. The price of the home, the interest rate, all of that has to make sense. So watch that video so you have a better idea. When interest rates, you should have like in your head, when interest rates get to this, I'm refinancing automatically. Like there's no question, I'm refinancing at this point. All right, good question, random username. All right, ZV Edwards, thoughts on first-time home buyers using 401k money for down payment? I don't recommend it. And I know a lot of people did it over the pandemic, and I think they had waived, because a lot of things were waived during the pandemic. They had waived some of the penalties that come with taking money out of your 401k, because a lot of people were laid off during that time. They needed access to funds. They were trying to stimulate the economy. So a lot of people did access their 401k during the pandemic, especially because they reduced the penalty. But currently, if you take money out of your 401k, even if it's for a house, there's typically a penalty that goes with it, or there's some, you have to check with your 401k administrator. There's going to be some penalties that go with taking that money out. And you're also losing any compounding interest on that account. So I would not recommend it. I would tell you to go ahead and save as much as possible instead of going to your 401k. And most financial people are going to tell you try to avoid that as much as possible. I think it might have made more sense when there was no penalty during that time than it makes now. But for the most part, you want to try to leave your 401k accounts or retirement accounts alone and let that build and then start saving for your house. Okay. If there are some other things you can do, like, if you're doing FHA, if you're doing conventional, it's 3% down or 3.5% down. Try, you might be able to try to save those faster than like 5% or 20% down. There are some 100% financing loans if the down payment is a major issue, where you feel like you have to take it from your 401k. Shanitha says, I'm in Chicago too, and I just got 2 pre-approvals. Awesome. Renella says, I'm on the sidelines and I'm saving. Yes. Sean says, I'm on the sideline paying off debt and increasing my safety. Very good. William says, I'm on the sideline living and traveling in an RV. Yes. And I think that's affordable. So I'm sure you are able to save by living in an RV, probably. Lois says, it's hard time to be a homeowner in this economic climate. I live in Ontario. Okay, yes. And I think I saw something, don't quote me on this. Somebody said that the average person has to make almost over $100,000 a year, right, to be able to afford a home in this high interest rate, high price environment. And I know that's depending on where you live, you feel that a little bit more than other places. But if nothing else, because we're getting to a point where rent is expensive and home ownership is expensive. So every housing totally is expensive. So more and more people are taking more of their income and using it toward housing. Some people are using 50% of their income to pay for, just living expenses, basic living. That's before you pay for anything else. That's before you save. That's before you invest, before you eat, before you do anything, pay your cell phone bill. You have a huge chunk of your money going toward housing. And in order to build wealth, you have to get that number as low as possible. So even if you're renting right now, or if you're saving, like, what can you do to try to get, your housing, that monthly expense that is not going to build anything? It's just, gone after you pay it each month. How can you minimize that as much as possible? You have to strategize that. I don't care if it's, I told y'all, and I haven't said this recently, but when I bought my first house and my mortgage was $880, I got a roommate. And you're thinking that was super cheap, but that was back in the day. So that $880, I made her pay $440. And, that took a huge, because I had a new construction home. It was a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, I believe, if I remember correctly. And I was living by myself. So I was like, okay, I got, a college student. She paid $440, utilities included. That was an excellent deal for her. And then half of my mortgage was paid. If you guys are in these situations where you have a 2-bedroom apartment and you're paying $2,000, who else can be living with you, helping you pay that money? You have to be strategic. You have to be more creative. If your income is not increasing, you have to decrease your expenses as much as possible, or home ownership is going to get farther and farther away from you. All right. Questions. All right. Bridget says, just closed last month. Awesome. I'm inside looking to get second remote to pay additional principal. All right, good. And I have a video coming out, how to pay off your home early. So I look for that video very soon. I might release it on Sunday. So look for that video out to come out very soon. All right. Ms. Johnson says, is it a good time to build? That's what we're doing, but the land in Chicago is nuts. Okay. I'm going to take this 2 ways. So the first way is, are you building, buying your own land to build? Then possibly, but construction costs are still pretty high. So you want to make sure that you are working with somebody that is handling those costs for you. If you're doing your own construction loan, you're buying the property, building the house, versus like going to a DR Horton, a Lennar, a builder, and they own the land and they're building the house. That's very different. So I would hope that if you're building a house with one of the major builders, they're incentivizing you to purchase that house by buying down your interest rate, or they're offering you significant closing costs to buy right now, because it is pretty expensive, because again, most places gone down in prices and interest rates are over 7%. So you have to make sure one of my goals with this channel is that you build wealth through home ownership, or, that's one way, not the only way you build it, but home ownership is one way you build wealth. But when home ownership becomes so expensive that you can't do anything else, you can't pay off any debt that you have left, you can't invest, you can't save for retirement, you can't do all of those things, then home ownership may not make as much sense. So I really want you to make sure that you're buying definitely within your means during this time, or you're on the sideline saying, okay, there's some things I have to work on. I have to increase my income. I have to pay off my debt. I have to do some other things before I purchase. All right. Somebody says, I'm on the sideline, increasing my income, improving my credit. Love these. Researching property taxes for potentials. Okay, good job. And when we're researching property taxes, I don't know if you're talking about tax liens, so I don't want to go in that direction, but hopefully she's looking, like you said, looking for properties, what's going to go on the market soon, what have people paid for properties, what neighborhoods do I want to be in. You guys that are sitting on the sideline should be experts in your local market, because you have to know where I want to go. So when things do turn even a little bit, where, okay, affordability starts to happen before, prices may go up, that you're like, okay, I'm making my move now, and I'm going to be able to buy this property now. And the opportunity is, if you have homes in your market that are staying on the market, somebody said 200 days, I'm going in, I'm asking for everything. I'm asking for, because one thing the sellers have is equity. They're walking away with $200,000, $300,000. They're walking away with a lot of money when they sell that house. You can be asking for, they can't contribute to your down payment, but they can contribute to your closing costs. So they contribute to your closing costs, which could include, right, buying down your rate. Use their equity to buy down your rate. Now, everybody's not going to do this, but people that need to sell their house, they'll do that, because it's either I'm going to make $0 because I have no buyer, or I'm going to make a little bit less money because I'm going to pay or contribute to their closing costs. So make sure, right, that if you're finding these properties that have been on the market for a while, there's no buyer, there's nothing happening with that property, that you're coming in with an aggressive offer. Because, and I'll tell this story again, I had a property I listed in a flood zone. Great location, great house. It was in a flood zone. I would say we had 20, 30 showings. Nobody offered the house. They loved the house. And then the agent would say, oh, it's in a flood zone. My client's not interested, because you have to pay for flood insurance, right? So, it had been a while, no offers, a lot of activity. Agent comes on, my clients love the house. And I'm like, great. I was like, it's in a flood zone, right? And she said, yeah, they're aware. No big deal to them. What do I have to do to get this house? And I'm like, but I'm working for my sellers. I'm not working for you, working for your buyers. Just make a really competitive offer. They're just looking for the highest offer. But mind you, we had no offers. So you have to make sure you're knowledgeable about the property. Had been on the market for like 4 months. They have tried to sell it for sale by owner. Then I listed it. So I had listed it for probably about 2 or 3 weeks at this point. And they had listed it for maybe 2 months. So if that agent had done their research, this is a property that hadn't sold in 4 months. She should have came in a little bit more aggressive to say, hey, my clients are the one client that y'all have had, of all your showings, right, that didn't care about the flood zone. So they had the advantage, right? But my clients, they didn't owe anything on the house, walked away with more than $400,000, and they asked for $1,500. And I was like, I'll check with my clients to see if they want to do that. And of course, my clients were like, yeah, let's close this deal, right? So a lot of times you're not asking for a lot because your agent is not doing that research ahead of time to say, okay, what can I get from my clients? So be mindful of that. All right, so please like and subscribe. Let me take that down. Oh, there we go. I'm taking that down, going back to my comments. All right. Okay, somebody's crying because Chicago is so expensive. All right. Who else? Maybe Takosia. Sorry if I said your name wrong. She says, what's the name of the video you did telling what you can be doing while you're waiting to purchase? I want to say it's what to do while you're waiting, but I probably named it something else. I will, if the moderator cannot find it and post it, then I'll post it in the comments of this video for sure. But yeah, I think it was like maybe 7 or 8 things I say you can do while you're waiting. And that's when people are waiting for the market to crash. So, but it's the same things still apply, but the market didn't crash, you guys. So we're on the other side of that. The market didn't crash. All right. Let's see. Miss Smile 30 says, I went for a pre-approval yesterday and I was told I could start the building process with 10% down or wait until I get my score up and put 3.5% down. I'll wait till I get my score up, probably, depending on how much. Unless you have a lot of savings to put the 10% down, I would probably see how quickly I can get my score up, because that same agent, the same lender, should have given you a plan to say, okay, how quickly can I get my score up? Remember, I said in my videos that lenders have, simulators. So whatever your score is, they can say, okay, if you do this, this, and this in 3 months, your score should be this, right? So hopefully they were able to walk you through where your score would be if you did certain things. So, I don't know your financials and how much money you have. So, but that's a big difference. So if you're buying a $300,000 house, that's either $30,000 or what is that? Or like $9,000 or so. So I want you to, the $20,000 difference. And if it only took me 2 months to get where my credit needs to be, then I probably wouldn't. But you have to kind of, see what makes the most sense for you. But I'm definitely going back to that lender so I have a better idea of how long it's going to take me to get to where my credit needs to be. And this is an example, you guys. If your credit score, the reason why you want your credit score as high as possible, because it gives you options. She can choose. Now she's being forced kind of to put more money down if she wants to get a loan. But the higher your credit score is, typically, the higher debt to income ratio they will allow you to have. So credit score is important, not just for interest rate, but it does play a role in the debt to income ratio maximum that the lender will allow you to have. So I would just talk back to that lender and see which one, I would be willing to do. All right, good question, Ms. Smile. Do you predict that home prices will be rising in 2024? It really depends on where interest rates go. Because when interest rates were at high 6s, low 7s, demand was still high. That's why prices didn't really go down. So if we stay in that, 7%, 6%, prices will probably stay stable, right? Because that's what's already happened in this market, unless we go into a recession, people get laid off, that sort of thing. But if interest rates stay high 6s, low 7s, will probably stay at the same rate. Now, if interest rates go down, right, because a lot of people are waiting for interest rates to go down, then competition. The only reason that prices went up, almost 40% in 2 years, right, or about 40% in 2 years, is because interest rates went down to 2%, 3%. Now, we all know that interest rates aren't going to go back down to 2%, 3% unless we have another pandemic or something major. Right? So they're not going back down there, but a lot of people, because salaries have gone up a little bit to try to, balance out this inflation, salaries have gone up a little bit. So people can afford homes. A lot more people can afford homes at 5%, at 6%, low 6s, mid 5s. A lot more people can afford. So then you have competition again, right? So the same thing could happen where prices start going up, because now you have people bidding, 5, 6 people bidding on one property. Like inventory would have to come up a lot. What could help balance it is that a lot of people that don't want to lose their 3% rate, their 2% rate, then they're like, oh, at 5%, I'll sell. Like 1/4 of home sellers, like resale sellers, said they would sell their home in the next 3 years. But a lot of them aren't willing to go drastically up in price for that home. So when interest rates go down, more people are probably more likely to sell as well. Because remember, sellers are buyers eventually. So it really depends on where interest rates go. That's the answer to your question, Maurice. But interest rates are predicted to go down in 2024. But will prices go down as well? All right. Okay, new skincare is back. She meant bidding wars on new construction. I don't see any bidding wars on new construction in where I am. And I think, in articles that I've read across the country, I don't think there's bidding wars on new construction because builders are building properties not as quickly. They're kind of building. A lot of them are building once it's under contract, or they're building 10 at a time, selling those 10, then building the next 10. So I think if there were bidding wars, they wouldn't need as many incentives to get people to buy. Because if builders, because Lennar's offering, interest rate buy downs, Meritage, Lennar, DR Horton, they're all offering incentives right now. If they didn't offer incentives, people wouldn't be buying new construction either. So the reason why new construction is doing so well is because they're offering incentives that resale sellers are not offering. You're going to have to ask the resale seller. You're going to say, hey, I'm going to need $10,000, $20,000 toward my closing costs to buy down this rate. You're going to have to ask. They're not going to, a lot of them aren't offering that up front because some of them are still getting, more offers on their homes because there's not a lot of inventory. All right, Sonia Edwards, what's the difference between pre-approval and pre-qualification? Should I wait to do any just to see where I stand? Welcome to the channel, Sonia. I love for you to do a pre-approval to see where you stand. The major difference between a pre-approval and a pre-qualification is them actually looking at your documentation. So Bank of America is what I can think of off the top of my head. Bank of America, at least they used to, they offered a pre-qualification. It'll be like a form on their website. You put in how much you make. You put in, how much you make, what your bills are, like little things like that. And they do run your credit, and they kind of give you back or spit you back out a pre-qualification. Like, you would be approved for this. And it's usually very quick. If it's not like 24 hours, it's not immediate. It's like very quick. When you do a pre-approval, you're going to do application. They're going to say, send us your bank statement, send us your W-2, send us your last check stubs. They're going to want actual documentation to verify what your income is, what your debt is. And then they're going to probably within, I would say 3 to 7 days, they're going to turn around with a pre-approval. So pre-approvals are actually looking at your documentation, and typically pre-qualifications don't. And that's why pre-approvals are much stronger. When you're actually going to go, buy a property, you want to make sure you have a pre-approval and not a pre-qualification. Because a lot of times once your documents are actually looked at, you don't qualify for whatever reason. Or, so you want to make sure you're really strong and getting a pre-approval. But I definitely recommend that you see where you stand. It's much easier than trying to figure it out on your own. I did a video with Kevin. I've done 2 videos on pre-approvals, but the most recent is with Kevin. He's a lender. We kind of went through in detail the pre-approval process and why it makes sense to go ahead and do one just to see where you stand. So if you're sitting on the sidelines and you don't know where you stand, that's one thing that you can do is go ahead and get pre-approved. Look at that video under my live tab. It is why waiting to do a pre-approval may hurt you. That's the thumbnail of that video. Why waiting for a pre-approval may hurt you. Thank you, Sonia. All right. Mariella says, in the event that rates increase, should my loan increase as well if I already have a 5% loan? Good question. Okay. If when you purchase your property, you did a fixed rate loan, and hopefully you did at 5%, you did a fixed rate. And you should know that at closing. At closing, you're going to sign a lot of documents, and it's going to say if your rate is fixed or if it's variable, if it changes. But for the most part, I think, over that time, you probably did. I don't know for sure if you did a fixed rate. If you're not sure, go back to your lender or your paperwork to see what your loan disclosures say. Is it fixed or is it variable? If it's fixed, it will never change. Even if they sell your loan to another lender or do something like that, that 5% will never change. If it's variable, then it does increase or decrease. You could do a 1-year ARM, meaning a 1-year adjustable rate mortgage. After a year, it's going to adjust. It can adjust up. It can adjust down. Okay. You can do a 3-year. That's the next, most popular, a 5-year and a 7-year. And I have, if anybody has an adjustable rate loan or they're thinking about doing an adjustable rate loan, I have a video about that because I did one. When I bought my first home, I did a 7-year ARM. I lived in the house for, I want to say 3 years. I lived in the house about 3 or 4 years. And then I sold it before the rate adjusted. But I did do a 7-year ARM on my first house. All right. Thank you. All right. Good question. Hey, Troy. I think Troy he's in our Facebook group. He just closed. He has a picture. Y'all need to join the Facebook group so y'all can see it. Thank you so much. So grateful for your help. We close Monday. Get the ebook, everyone. It's a game changer. Yes, but I'm going to say this. Wait till the 21st because I've updated it because in the height of the pandemic, I made that video because I was like, okay, I have to get something out because people are asking me all these questions. They need something to go through the book. So I'm going to update it. I've updated it. I've done some new videos. So the new one is going to come out on the 21st of September. Anybody that bought the old one, you will have access. Even Troy, he's going to get the update. You'll have access to the old one as well. So I'm going to announce it coming out. But congratulations, Troy. But it's definitely going to walk you through the home buying process. Because I think people, they may watch, a few of my videos, they may miss something. So this is making sure you don't miss any part of the process. So you'll be a confident first-time home buyer. Thank you so much, Troy. I appreciate that. All right. All righty. All right. Miss Umrah did find what you should do while waiting to buy your first home video. So thank you so much. We found that. All right. Let's see. Nick says, thank you for your videos on the 203K loan process. You're super helpful. Real estate agent in Ohio, Nick. Hey, Nick in Ohio. Yes. And I shared my problems with my 203K loan that I tried to get. So those of you not familiar with the 203K, it allows you to get a loan to purchase the house. It's an FHA product. It gives you a loan to purchase the house plus money to remodel the house. So think about you buying a house that needs repairs, or it's an older house that you want to rehab. So you want a new kitchen, new bathroom, new flooring, new roof. It'll give you that money that you can, you don't have to do a separate loan. Everything is all in one loan. And so it's a good loan product. The major thing is you have to find a reliable contractor because the lender pays that contractor while they're working on the rehab. So that contractor is going to have to be willing. A lot of people want their money as soon as they're finished, as soon as they're working on something. They're going to be paid out little by little until the job is complete. So just be mindful of that. But if you can, it's an excellent product. You need a lender that has done a 203K before, and hopefully an agent that knows about 203Ks. But I have 3 videos about 203Ks. I have a playlist with the 3 videos, so you can watch it all together. Even one's an interview with somebody that has successfully done a 203K. I have at least 2 or 3 people in the Facebook group that have done a 203K successfully and actually closed. So if you just search in the Facebook group 203K, you'll see those. And a lot of them have shared their process, as it was going on, because sometimes it's a long process, but they've shared that. But it does allow you, that's one of the opportunities. You can find one of these old houses with that old green carpet and that siding, and you can make it look brand new, for a low price, because they'll probably sell it for you because it needs to be rehabbed for cheap. Then you get the money to rehab it and it works out. So if you can make a 203K loan happen, make it happen. Thanks, Nick. All right, so I'm going to go through, I think we're at 6:54, you guys. So I have to go through and do I did it last time. I'm going to do my 10 questions before I get off. Ms. Amanrad did home equity explained. If you don't understand, if you hear people saying, well, I'm going to use my equity, or I'm going to use my, how much equity do I have in my house? That video is going to help you understand what home equity means and how you can use your home equity to do other things with. All right, I have 371 people online. So I need y'all take a moment and just press the like button if you can. 371 people. Thank you guys for being on with me live. I hope this is helpful. I know that I hate this market because I specialize in first-time home buyers, and first-time home buyers are like, basically, if there are homes that we can't afford, they're terrible. They're like in poor condition. They're not in the neighborhoods we want to be in. It's a struggle. So I understand that. And I also understand now that you're paying much more than you could have paid 2 or 3 years ago, right? Or 2 years ago, even 1 year ago. And so that is painful for a lot of people. But I don't want you to be so discouraged that you give up on the process, because the alternative is renting and not owning anything ever. And I was in a class, I'm gonna take your 10 questions. I was in a class over the last 3 days, like a real estate class, and they were talking about like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And housing is at the bottom of that, okay? And we're thinking about housing, like a roof over your head or rental. But when you buy a house, and I think a lot of people don't talk about this a lot, when you buy a house, mentally, my house, and you know what your mortgage is going to be. It's a fixed rate. You know what that's going to be. Mentally, it's like, okay, I'm stable now. This is my house. I can live here for the next many years. I know what my mortgage payment is going to be. And it kind of frees you to work in other areas. It frees you to say, okay, now I can work on my business. Now I can go back to school, or now I can focus on other things in my life, because one of my basic needs, housing, is stable. Because even when you're renting, in the back of your mind, you're like, okay, if they raise the rent, I got to move, or I got, you're not saying it like, this is where I'm going to be for the next 10 years, the next 20, like you're not saying that. And so housing gives you the stability to work on those higher level things in your life. So I do want you to become a homeowner, because I think home ownership is going to lead you guys to fulfilling even bigger things in your life. All right. So thank you for liking and subscribing. That was my little point. We're at 378. So when I get off, I need to have 378 likes. All right. So, all right. We're about to, okay. And Miss Amra's being really good about putting in these videos. When can you refinance? All of that. All right. So let me get my last 10. Hopefully I have some good questions. I'm gonna do my 10. I gotta get my post-it note, because I always go over. Okay. All right, let's go. Okay, God Embassy, email me. I'm gonna put everybody don't email me. Info. Okay. Email me. All right, that's all I'm gonna say. All right, let's see. Questions. So if you're in Georgia and you're looking to buy a house, email me. I just put my email address in there. Okay. This is my first question of the 10. Alma says, is it a good idea to buy condos by universities for rentals? And I'm gonna tell you 2 things about this. All right, so number 1 is FHA loans. If you have children going to college, something that people have done over the years is do what they call a kiddie condo loan. Typing that into. Okay, it's like kiddie. I can't type right now. A kiddie condo loan. I just typed it in the thing. All right, so kiddie condo loans allow you to still use an FHA loan, which is 3.5% down. Say your child is you live in Texas and your child is going to school in Georgia. You can use a kitty condo. It's basically an FHA loan for a non-owner occupant. Now, typically, if you're trying to buy a house in another state, it's an investment property, and you have to put down 15 to 20%. But if your child is going to be living in that house, it becomes you're like a non-owner occupant of that house. Okay. Your child is on the title. They don't have to have income though, but you're both on that title together. They're occupying it, and it allows you to buy an investment property in another state for 3.5%. And a lot of parents have done this type of loan. Low down payment. They buy a 3-bedroom house. Their child lives in it. They get 2 roommates, and that's how they're paying that mortgage. So for anybody that has children, let me go back to the question up. If anybody has children that are entering college, talk with your lender to see if this is an option for you. Now, if this is something that you're considering doing for an investment, you need to research that area. Okay. And I say that because you need to know how much the homes cost, how much the condos cost, how much they're renting out for, how many students typically go to apartments or rentals versus living in the dorms. All of those things you need to research ahead of time to see if that's going to be a good investment for you. Are you going to break even? Is it going to cash flow? Like, you need to do all of those numbers ahead of time, because it could make sense. But a lot of people think, well, it's in a college town, it'll automatically rent. And that's not always the case. Okay. You have to make sure you're priced right, you're priced competitively, because some students and some campuses have a lot of options. Are you going to rent the rooms? Are you going to rent the entire thing where one person rents, they can find their own roommates? Or are you going to like rent by the room? Okay. All of those things will factor into your decision. So I'm not saying that it's a good or bad decision. It could be a good decision depending on what the demand is for rentals in that college community. Okay. So, but you have to do your research. And if it's in a state that's not your own state, you need to travel to that state, talk to some real estate agents, let them pull the rental data for you and all of that ahead of time. All right, Ashley, let's all give Ashley a clap. She's closing on her property tomorrow as a first-time homeowner. Awesome, awesome, awesome. It definitely feels good to have accomplished this because I have been so scared about homeownership. Congratulations, Ashley. Praying for everything to go very, very smoothly tomorrow for you, and many blessings in your new home. Everybody congratulate Ashley. That's not a question, but congratulate Ashley in the comments. All right, Tiff. She said rent is ridiculous, paying $2,800 a month. But in some areas, and that's, DC, Maryland, Virginia, probably that's cheaper than buying a house right now, depending on where you are. So it's getting where, you might as well, right? In some areas, it makes sense just to wait a little while longer. All right, I have a super chat. Okay, Tanya Wallace says, thank you for the super chat. I have an option to buy a townhouse in, is that Delaware, for a low price. Want to move to Texas when child is 8 years old in high school. Okay, your child is currently 8 in high school. Thinking about buying and living till then. Thoughts? Let me read this one more time. I have 2 options. Buy a townhouse in Delaware at a low price, or move to Texas when child is 8, thinking about buying and living there until then. Okay. So 8, they're going to high school. And when does high school start? 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Probably have 6 years before they go to high school. Somebody do that math for me. So that means you're going to be living in the Delaware house for 6 years. That seems like, I would say the minimum you're going to buy is 5 years, some even 7 years, because you need to make sure when you sell the Delaware house that you're going to make money on that Delaware house. And sometimes, depending on how much it's going to go up in value, you cannot depend, right, on properties going up in value like they went up in value in 2020, 2021, 2022, right? Inflation was 20%, 20% to each year on average. Now they're trying to get inflation down to 3%, 2%. 2% is a goal. Right now it's at about 3%. So let's imagine that the house you buy in Delaware is going to go up in value 2% per year, for the next 6 years. Where are you at? If you have to sell it, you probably have to pay real estate commission. Let's imagine that you paid a 5% real estate commission. It's gone up 6, that's 12, 5% real estate commission. You're probably going to make 7% on that house on average, maybe. Is that worth it? And now your agent can probably help you a little bit more, kind of, help you predict how much that's going to be worth. Are you going to rent it out? Would it make sense for you to leave it as a rental in that area? You might want to do that, right? So those are the things that you need to think about. If you're thinking about you're just going to sell and buy a new house, I'm going to make sure I'm going to have that equity in the home before you leave, because you're cutting it close. At the minimum right now, this is for everybody. I wouldn't buy a house that I didn't plan on living in for at least 5 years, because you need that time for that equity to grow in that house for you to sell it and make money, right? So I kind of gave a worst case scenario, but you could have, depending on this economy, you could have some years where you have no equity, no appreciation, right? So you have to factor that in. So what am I going to do? I might not buy if I'm only going to live there for 6 years right now. Yeah, that would be mine, unless you are saying I'm going to buy it and rent it out and keep it, hold it longer term. So that would be my advice. Sit with a real estate agent. If you're buying it for a really low price in Delaware and you know that it's going to cash flow as a rental after you leave and move to Texas, then that might be a better decision than to say, okay, I'm definitely going to sell it in 5 to 6 years. Those are my thoughts on it. Thank you, Toya. All right, I want to make sure I'm not missing any super chats. Tiff gave me one. Thank you, Tiff. I appreciate that. All right, let's go. So that was question number 2. I have 8 more. Okay. What advice can you give on buying down rates? My major advice is to know your break-even point. Okay, to know your break-even point. If it costs you $5,000 to buy down a rate to, wherever you're buying it down to, it costs you $5,000, but you're only going to save $10 a month, how long does it take you to make up that $5,000 that you put up initially? You want that time to be as short as possible, because even though people think they're going to live in this house for 30 years, I think on average, they say people live in a house to 8 to 10 years or something like that. So some of you may sell your house before you make up the amount that you paid down that rate to, and then it doesn't make sense. So the longer it takes you to make that money back, that savings, the less it makes sense. Okay. You're not going to buy down a rate and pay this money up front to the lender. It's like you're paying your interest basically up front to the lender. And so when you pay it up front, you need to make sure that you're going to live in that house for enough time that you're going to make back up that savings above that $5,000 or whatever you're buying down that rate to. Because it's good to get a low rate, but how much did you pay for that rate? Some people were paying $15,000 to buy down a rate, and then you might find out 5 years, I want to sell the house. You're not going to get that money back that you bought down the rate. It didn't go to your house in equity or anything like that. It wasn't a down payment. You paid that interest to the lender up front. So I have 2 videos. I have a video called Should You Buy Points? Like, does it make sense to buy points? And then I have another video about the 2-1 buy down, or these buy downs. I have a video about that as well. So to see if it makes sense, and I kind of talk you guys through it to buy down your rate. All right, that was question number 3. Thank you, Tony. All right, let's see. Jobaholic Jones. Hey, if looking to buy in, a lot of people in DC, well, no, that's Dallas-Fort Worth. Sorry, Dallas-Fort Worth by January 2024. When should you obtain a pre-approval? If you have no idea where you stand, do it now. Like, if you have no idea what you're going to qualify for, what's going to happen, do it now. So you have an idea, because we're 4 months out. You got September, October, November, December. You only got 4 months. I would do it now and then get approved again when I'm really ready to shop for a house. Because if you do new construction, right, it may take them a while to build the house and you'll be ready by January. So I'm getting pre-approved now for definitely in September. By September, I'm getting pre-approved to move in January. But good question. But in general, for everyone, it's 3 to 4 months. But even if somebody tells me now they're buying next summer, I would tell them get a pre-approval now so you know what you'll probably qualify for, because you'll have a better idea what you qualify for, what your payment's going to be. Because some people are like, oh, that's not enough money, I want this kind of house. Then you better start increasing your income and paying down your debt aggressively over the next 12 months in order to get where you want to be. And a lot of people don't know that ahead of time. If you wait 3 to 4 months out, that's your home shopping time. That's not your getting ready time. So if you need more getting ready time, then you need to go ahead and get your pre-approval now. But if you feel like, oh, I know where I am, I know where I stand, then 3 to 4 months should be good enough. Because sometimes, especially if you're buying a resale home, it may take you 3 months to find what you want, because inventory on the resale level is low. So it may take you a minute to find what you want. All right, that was question number 4. 6 more. How often do taxes go up on a home? Shamika, I have a good video I want you to watch, because my taxes went up, so my payment went up. So it was, why did my mortgage payment go up? It's under, it's in the regular video tab. So definitely watch that video. But taxes go up typically for 2 reasons. One, because your home value goes up. So because home values went up, again, 2020, 2021, 2022, values went up significantly. So the majority of people that bought a house prior to the pandemic saw a tax increase, because say your taxes, in most places they're called millage rates. But say your taxes are 2% on the value of your home. So that 2% on $100,000 house, maybe I'm terrible with this. So 10%, okay. So 2% might be $2,000. Is that right? On a $100,000 house. But when your house goes up in value and now it's worth $200,000, then your taxes are $4,000. So your taxes go up one way as your value of your home increases. Okay. The other way your taxes go up, your city or your county or your parish, wherever you live, that sets the tax rate. They say, we don't have enough money, we're going to increase the tax rate for this area. Instead of collecting 2%, we're going to collect 2.5%. Okay. Because of inflation, because we have to pay, teachers more. We have to pay firefighters more. We have to pay, all their personnel more. So they're going to increase property taxes, because that's how you pay for city services, property taxes for the most part. So, that's another way, or both of them can happen at the same time. So I would say for me, and I've done videos on all of this, the house that I live in now, I bought in 2016. The most it went up from 2016 to 2001 was probably $50 increase, like $50 maybe at the most. When the pandemic happened, those 2 times, it went up like $1,000 a year for a year. So one was like, well, let me go back a little bit. My mortgage payment changed $50. So it might have went up like $600. Then it went up over those 5 years, it went up $600. So that wasn't a lot. $50 wasn't a big deal. The home was going up, slowly, right? But when it went up drastically over like a year, it went up $1,000 or more, So as your home values increase, your taxes will typically increase. But what's normal is that it goes up gradually. You don't like, oh, it's up, $100. It's up, very minimal. You don't really notice it as much. But when you have things like what happened over the pandemic, it goes up drastically. And a lot of people were shocked by that, because, they got used to paying that payment, that regular payment, and then it did go up. And so your taxes can go up and your insurance can go up. But typically, remember, these last 2 years were not typical. Okay. Nothing that happened in 2020, 2021, and 2022 were typical. So I don't want you to be scared, right? Because the same way when your taxes go up on your house, your apartment rent is going up too, because whoever owns that apartment, that amount is going up as well. And all they do is pass it on to you by increasing your rent. Okay. That's one of the reasons that rental prices went up. Not the main reason, but they're going to cover those taxes. So don't think because you're renting, you're safe, right? Because when taxes go up in your area, your rent will go up as well. All right. Thanks, Shamika. But I did a video and I detailed how my taxes went up over the last year or so. All right. That was question number 5. Thank you, guys. We have 377 on, which is awesome. All right. Sweet Diva says Texas is closed. They want you out of that state because everybody's coming to Texas. Okay. I'm going to take this question. This question number 6. It says, is it worth to refi on a mobile or modular home? And the answer typically is if you're going to get a significantly lower interest rate. Okay. So, and this go either way. If your mobile home is movable, like you could take your mobile home and put it on another lot, then you don't have a mortgage. You have just a regular loan, kind of like almost like a car loan because it's movable, right? So that's like refinancing your car. Sometimes it makes sense for you to refinance your car if you had a really high rate and now rates are significantly lower because now you're going to get a lower payment every month and you'll pay off your debt faster with a lower payment. Okay. So that makes sense. If you have a mortgage on, and the way you get a mortgage on a mobile home or a modular home is because it's fixated. You've transferred that vehicle title because it can move. Now it's a deed because now it's affixed to the land. Like you're not going to move it because it's permanently affixed to the land. That's the only way you can get a mortgage on a mobile or modular home typically, if it cannot be moved. So then the same thing would apply as far as refinancing. You want to look at your break-even point and if it makes sense for you to refinance a loan. I say that is different because oftentimes when you're refinancing a car loan, there's not necessarily these closing costs that come along with it. Where when you're refinancing your house, your mortgage, there's usually closing costs. And sometimes they can be significant that come along with it. So that would be the major difference. So of you refinancing either one. All right, good question, AMJ. All right, 3 more questions. Let's see. Marsha says, question number 7, what is a good credit score to be able to buy a home? So the lowest typically that you can buy a home at is 580. And watch some of my videos to kind of explain, if so say FHA says we'll go as low as 520 or whatever, 580, 520. A lender can say, Bank of America said we don't loan anybody less than a 650 on anything. Like they can make a decision to say, we want for our bank or our mortgage company, we don't loan anybody less than this credit score. And typically you'll find with most people with no extra fees or anything like that in the 640 area, then you're not going to pay like extra fees or need money on reserves or that sort of thing. Okay. I don't know how long you've been with me, but there was somebody earlier that said her credit score was lower, so she had to do a 10% down payment. So those are some of the things you may run into unless you get your credit score up significantly. So I would say there's no set amount because every lender is a little bit different, but I would say 640 is when you can start where it's not going to be where they'll penalize you that much, right? But again, it depends on lender and you'll be able to get qualified if or require a higher down payment, that sort of thing. But 760 is typically anything when your credit's like a 760 or higher, you're going to get the best rates offered to you. People that have 800 are not going to get a better interest rate than the people that have a 780. Okay. Generally 760 is anything above that's going to get the best rates, but 640, 660 in that range, you'll probably be able to get qualified. Okay. But you can find some lenders that will pre-approve you for lower than that. but generally there are higher fees and other things attached to it. All right. Good question. I'm on 8 and 9, you guys. So I'm looking for really good ones. And good conversation in the chat. Okay, good conversation in the chat. Somebody was asking about the election. This is not going to be an official question, but somebody was asking about the election impacting interest rates. It probably will impact interest rates, but because the election is not until 2024, toward the end of it, interest rates may already start on the decline during that time. But again, the lower interest rates are, remember, there's a lot of people sitting on the sidelines waiting for interest rates to fall. It still may increase prices. Okay. All right. Somebody said, I lived in Maryland. I found a townhouse that was selling for $359. So that's good. Or it sounds good for Maryland. All right, I'm going to take this one. Rodney, this is a good question. So Rodney's question number 8. I feel like I was already on 8, but I'll take this. 8, 9, 10. Okay, this is number 8. I'm almost at 400. I might give y'all a bonus if we get up to 400 on this chat, on this live. All right, Rodney says, what is the best way to find out how much my offer should be on a house? All right, so I'm going to run you through how I would do it with a buyer. All right, so if I'm working with a buyer, they're interested in a house, and say that house is listed for $500,000. Okay. I'm looking at a couple of things, and this may not be all the things I'm looking for, but I'm looking for how long has that home been on the market? So days on the market. The longer it's been on the market, the more I know that there's less interest, there's less demand for that house. The longer it's been on the market, typically the less demand for that house. So if the average days on the market, and your agent can tell you this, if the average days on the market in that area, say it's 10 days, and this house has been on the market for 50 days, I automatically know that that house has less demand for it. Not a lot of people want this house, either for one of 3 reasons. Either it's overpriced, it's in a bad condition, or it is in a bad location. So I'm going to try to figure out which one. Like, why isn't this house selling? Is it overpriced? Is it in bad condition? Or is it in a bad location? So I'm going to figure out that. Then I'm going to see, has it ever been under contract? Has anybody ever put this house under contract, and what happened with that contract? Okay. Then when I'm viewing the property, and I've done this in some of my shorts, I'm looking around the house. I'm trying to see, like, why are they selling this house? Are they downsizing? Typically, I can tell by the furnishings. Give you all my little tips. Typically, I can tell by the furnishings of the house what the age of the people that live in the house are. Okay, that's one way to tell. I can tell if they're like, average middle age, 30s, 40s. I can tell if they're 70s, 80s. I can tell a lot of people don't update their furnishings, their pictures. They have pictures of their kids and they're young, or they have pictures of their grandchildren and their babies, and they have other pictures of their children. That's why they tell people really to neutralize your house, because you don't want people to tell all of this stuff. Sometimes they'll have their degrees on the walls and they graduated in 1970s, 1980s. They're older, right? So I'm looking at all of that stuff. I'm looking to see if a couple lives in this house, because what I can tell when I pull the tax records, I can tell, are they getting a senior exemption on their taxes? They're probably older and downsizing. Are they married? Are there 2 people with the same last name on the deed? Okay. So if I'm going through the house and I'm like, all I see is female things in here, maybe they're getting a divorce. Like, I'm looking at any kind of motivation. Why isn't this house selling? Are they motivated? Are they getting divorced? Are they downsizing? I'm looking at all of this stuff. And then I'm talking to my client, like, are you really interested in this house? And we're going to strategize as to what the offer should be on this house. Should we come in at asking price, below asking price, or above asking price? I'll tell you this, if there's no demand on this house and they're motivated, and I'm also going to talk to the agent, because a lot of times the listing agent will tell you, hey, why they're selling this house? What's happening? Why isn't it selling? And they will tell you, oh, they're going through a divorce. The husband don't want to sell, but they have to sell because they're behind on their payments. They'll start talking. So I'm going to get all of this. That's going to tell me where I should come in on this house. And also I'm going to look, last thing I'm going to look at, and I can't think of everything right now, but another thing, what have other homes sold for in the area? Okay. In their area, I'm going to pull all the comps. Are homes selling for 500,000? Are they selling for more than 500,000 or less than 500,000? And then we're going to come in and say, you know, this is what we should offer on this house if we want it. And typically, if all of those things are like low, days on the market are high, conditions not, you know, amazing, I'm coming in much lower. If I see a lot of competition on that house, and I did a video about offers as well, then I might come in at asking price. If I know it's like competitive, I might do an escalation clause because a lot of people are offering it. But that's how like I'm going through with my client what to offer. So, and I did this recently with a house. It was a ranch home. The house was on the market, I want to say for 3 or 4 months. And they were older couple. You can tell by the stuff in the house. They, in the listing, it said, you know, motivated sellers, make an offer, you know, so we came, they're telling you like they'll take less than what is, you know, what is listed for. So we came in much lower. We asked for closing costs. My client got the house. It appraised for over the value. So they came in with equity, but the client, the people that were downsizing, they were already under contract on a new construction and they could not buy that new construction home unless they had a buyer for their home. So they were like, you know, make us an offer, we'll take it, you know? So you have to kind of do your research, especially in this environment, do your research so you know where to come in at for all of these properties. But good question. But your agent should be going through all of this. When everything was super busy during our consultations with buyers, we would do like the market ahead of time, like average days on the market, what's happening, what we have to do. So then when we were making an offer, the buyers were ready because, you know, first time home buyers are very nervous about making that first offer. So hopefully your agent is going through all that stuff with you ahead of time. So then when it's time to make an offer, you're comfortable with signing, with going in with that price. And you have to be a good negotiator, you have to be willing to walk away. Like, what are you willing to walk away? Like, you can't be like desperate, I have to have this house. And I always ask my clients that, okay, what would happen if you lost this house? And if they're like, I can't lose it, then I might be a little bit more aggressive than if they're just like, if I get it, good. If I don't get it, you know, still good. So all of those things factor into like me, but the offer is 100% your decision. But we're going to go over this and then you decide, you know, what you're comfortable with offering. All right. Good question, Rodney. So, customer service says, girl, I'm looking now. Jesus, it's been rough. I understand. All right, let's get some more questions. All right, I'm going to take this one. This is going to be number 9. All right, MKW. My pre-approval was for $245,000. So mostly resales were my options unless I wanted to live on the outskirts. Is it worth to try a new builder lender to see if I can get approved for more? My answer is yes, but you have to know why, okay? So with your outside lender, you're not using a builder's lender, like a builder's preferred lender. You're using just an outside lender to buy a resale. Then you're getting the regular mortgage rates. You're probably, you know, in your loan estimate, hopefully you've asked for a loan estimate. In your loan estimate, it tells you what interest rate you're being quoted. And it's probably, I don't know, say it's 7%. A lot of builders, and it really depends on where you live, but a lot of builders are offering incentives to buy down that interest rate, okay? So if you're finding, you see new construction builders that have incentives that are buying down the rate, then like here, some builders are offering 5.5%. D.R. Horton, and a lot of subdivisions in Georgia right now, D.R. Horton is offering 5.5% if you use their lender. So that does allow you to buy more of a house. Now, so say that at 5.5%, you're able to qualify for $300,000. Are they building $300,000 homes in that area? So that's what you want to look at, because I can, without me doing a pre-approval, I can see on their website the price of their house, what the incentive is, and you could put that in a calculator, like a mortgage calculator, and say, okay, can I afford, this house at this interest rate? Okay. Even before you do a pre-approval. But if the house can be 400,000 or 450 at 5% or 5.5%, and you still not be able to afford it. So just be mindful of that. But yes, you should be looking into new construction as well, because a lot of them have incentives to buy down your rate. Now, if you are doing the resales, the main difference is builders are saying they're offering that, they're publicizing their incentives. We'll buy down your rate, we'll give you money, we'll do this, that. They are advertising it. For resales, you're going to have to ask, right? In your offer, if this resale has been sitting there for a long time and you need, in order to afford it, maybe the house is 260, right? And you're like, okay, in order for me to afford the 260 house, I have to get my rate bought down 0.5%. Lender, how much does it cost for me to get my rate to, down 0.5%? Oh, that's going to cost you $7,000. So in your offer, seller that's had their house on the market for 3 months, I need $15,000 in closing costs. That's going to cover my closing costs and buying down my rate. That's the kind of thing you want to be working out. So you're working with your lender, your agent, you're all working together to help you get the house. Okay. All right. I want to take, hold on. This is not going to count as number 10, but it says, what if you're not a first-time home buyer and had a foreclosure or bankruptcy? Depending on your loan type, typically in 2 to 3 years after foreclosure or bankruptcy, you can buy a house with an FHA loan. And you don't have to be a first-time home buyer. You just don't have to currently have a house. All right. Okay, I think I'm going to take one up a little bit more. Sorry. I did that one. I want to do 2. Everybody, y'all, while I'm waiting for these last 2, hit the like button, please. All right, Janet says, 379 watching, including myself. I listen to your advice. Although I'm not from the USA, a shout out to you. Thank you so much. I saw the question I wanted to answer. Now I don't see it anymore. Sorry, you guys. All right, I'm answering this question because I saw it. How do you feel about new construction condos? They're good, but with all condos, you guys, be careful of the fees, because condo fees are not cheap necessarily, depending on what kind of condo you're buying. So all of that factors into your affordability. If you're pre-approved for $300,000 and you're buying a condo that has a monthly fee of $600 a month, you can't afford that. You only can afford, something less expensive. Like all together, that payment, that a pre-approval for $300,000 does not include that HOA fee for $600, right? So you have to be really, really mindful. If you're doing a condo, ask your lender, okay, what's the highest condo fee that I could afford at $300,000? Or do I have to buy a condo for $275? And then they're like, okay, your condo fee can't be more than $300. Okay. So make sure you're talking. If you're buying a condo, make sure you're talking about that ahead of time. All right. I think I answered. Let me see. So we're talking about assessments. I'm going to take that question. I saw one more I really wanted to answer. I can't even think about what the question was now, though. Okay, Queen T. So this is going to be number 10. I'm going to do a bonus for number 11. All right. When going to look at a home to purchase, should the owner already have the property cleaned and yard manicured, ready to sell? In a perfect world, yes. And I say in a perfect world because of course, a seller would want to present their home in the best light possible to get the highest sale, right? They want to put it in the best light possible to earn the most money. Because if the yard is nice and the house is clean, that makes you want to purchase it more. If it's dirty and all shrubs and the lawn hasn't been cut in a long time, then that does present an issue. It makes it less desirable. So when you're listing a house, ideally, all of those things need to be done. Typically, if it's not, there's some reason why it's not. They can't afford it. Maybe there's some conflict. Remember, like divorces, that sort of thing. Who's responsible for that? Maybe they've already moved out of the house. Maybe they're just not clean people. All of those things. But when you see those and you're still interested in the house, I would look at it as an opportunity, because less people are going to desire that house. The less demand for something, the more opportunity you have as a buyer that is willing to potentially buy that house. It doesn't cost, much to get a cleaning. You can put that in your offer if you want that done. You can get the house, landscaped, and that sort of, you can put that as a credit in your offer. You can do, if you're willing to overlook it, and you can say, okay, if this house was clean, I would love it. If the lawn was mowed and, the shrubs were cut, I would love it. If you can look over those things, a lot of people cannot, but those are both cosmetic kind of things. If you could look over those, then you could potentially get a deal, because a lot of people are like, that house is nasty. That yard is ugly. And they weren't even thinking about it. So it could present an opportunity for you, Queen. So I would say the answer to your question is yes, people should be doing it, but there's typically a reason why they're not. And that could be an opportunity for you as a buyer to come in and get a deal. All right. So sorry about that last question. Whoever asked that question I wanted to answer is also in my Facebook group, because I recognize the name. So I would put the question in the Facebook group. All right, I'm going to take this question last. All right. Thank you all for joining me. Hit the like button. I'm going to put September 21st in your, as a reminder. And, thank you for joining me on Thursdays. I'm going to keep Thursdays. I'm trying to add some Sundays in as well, because a lot of you have asked for a Sunday live. All right. Kimberly Allen. She says, how does being a senior citizen on a deed help with your taxes? And this could be mind blowing. So if you have a grandmother, auntie, anybody that's in the senior status, or if you have an older person living with you, please listen. All right. So a lot of states or counties, depending on who assesses your taxes, your city, your state, your county, your parish, whoever assesses your taxes, a lot of people that assess taxes have senior exemptions. Okay. Senior exemptions, meaning your tax bills a lot of them go to schools. Okay. A big portion of your taxes go to schools. The other ones go to services, like your county or city services, fire, police, all of those things, maintenance, sanitation. Okay. So a lot of cities, to not burden seniors who typically have a fixed income, to not burden them, they reduce their taxes, and typically they'll take away the school tax, because they don't usually have kids school age. So they'll remove the school tax from their taxes. So taxes are significantly lower for seniors in a lot of areas. So if you are a senior on this live, I want you to make sure that where you're living has some kind of senior exemption, because it can help you as your income is fixed in the years that your income is fixed, right? Or sometimes if they don't remove those taxes, they'll freeze them, so they won't go up as your property value goes up, then your property taxes won't go up. So either one, you want to find out where you are. So, but they don't automatically do it. There's nobody in the tax assessor's office that says, oh, Mary just turned 62. Let's do the exemption. You have to know to go apply for that exemption when you turn that age. And one major thing that I learned in my area is that as long as one person, let me say this again, as long as one person on your title, on your deed is, in my area, the school tax is removed at 62. Is 62, the whole property can be exempt from the taxes. So for those of you that have a grandparent living with you, you're doing multi-generational living, and somebody over 62 is on your deed, you'll be exempt in a lot of cases from the tax altogether. You could be 20 or 25, but you have a grandparent on your deed, then, you're exempt from those taxes. So one, even if you're not that age yourself, make sure that the seniors in your family or in your life are getting their exemptions, because they have to apply for them. A lot of seniors lose their homes because they can't pay the taxes. And a lot of them haven't even applied for the exemption when they turn that age. So definitely do that. And then if you're even thinking about any kind of multi-generational living where you're going to have older people living with you, then you need to apply. And most areas have senior exemptions, disability exemptions. If you're disabled, or if somebody in your family is disabled, you have lower taxes. And they'll have veteran typically exemptions. So if you served in the military or disabled veteran, that sort of thing, you can have your taxes, your property taxes, minimized, at least, if not altogether, done away with. So I'm going to end on that, because that was a very good question. So make sure you're doing that. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Coming out with new videos. I've been kind of laying low in August because school started here in Georgia. But, if you need anything, I put my email there. We have our videos. And definitely like and subscribe and watch my videos, because I appreciate you. Thank you so much.